What's up, guys? This is D Brown with Trackheads. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Trackheads. So, right now, I'm going to tell you a nice story time at the time that I ran 2:02 for the 800-meter dash. So, fun fact, fun story, when I ran this race, I was in 10th grade, the summer of 10th grade year, going into 11th grade year. I was 15 years old, and I was preparing for, I did this at the AAU Junior Olympics. This was in Detroit. This was in Michigan State, I think. Some place in Michigan. It was a big school, college school, where you're able to look up and just see 30,000 people running, right? I was 15 years old, this skinny, like 5'7", 135 pounds, 15 years old, really just ready to get to it, really ready to run. So, like I said, this is a really cool story because it really just shows you that if you stay consistent and stay progressive in your runs and the way that you train, you can achieve pretty much everything. You know, the beginning of that season, I ran for my school, and I opened up the season with like a 2:12. Right? So I ran 2:12 beginning of the season. This was in like March, and basically throughout the year I was just chopping down times. So I went from 2:12, I believe, to like 2:09, and then by the end of the year I got to like 2:08 of my high school career. Then over the summer, and like I said, the coaching wasn't the best at my high school either, so I probably had a lot more in the tank, but you know, I was running the 800. I didn't run the mile. I ran the 400. I ran like 53 that year. Again, not really any coaching. And then I joined the summer track team in that area because I just moved to that area like a year before. And the teams in that area weren't necessarily good, but you know, this team, you know, they just happened to pop up, and they had a couple other 800-meter guys that I was able to train with, you know, running 2:03, 2:02s, 2:01s, 2:04s. And so I was just, you know, really competitive in my practices, right? It wasn't always the best practices. There was definitely really tough, but I was able to just try my best. And like I said, my body was growing, so I was just dealing with a lot of stuff. So long story short, like I said, after my high school year, I started training with this particular team. I trained with them for maybe 2 weeks, then ran an open meet. I ran like 2:07 in the rain, which was a pretty good opener. And then I was basically in this middle ground of between May and June where I was running a lot of events. I was running the 200. I ran like 23.48, a season's best. So 23.4 may seem kind of slow for a 10th grader, but the fact that I wasn't a typical 800-meter runner, I was a speed side 800-meter runner, was pretty interesting. I also experimented with the 1500. I went like 4:30 a bunch of times. I ran 4:30 probably 4 times. I ran the run, you know, that race that year. So I was pretty consistent, and I think that equates to like a sub 5-minute mile, you know. I want to say that I came with a 5K personal best of like 17:18 that year. So I was really just on the distance side. 5K, I was strong. 23.4, I was fast for the 800. So I had the perfect blend. I don't think I was just doing the necessary things in practice because, like I said, I didn't have the proper coaching from my high school that I did in the club scene. So like I said, I was training, I was working hard. My times just continued to drop. So I went from like 2:07. I stayed at 2:07. And then, like I said, I ran other events, 53s. I got down to like 52 and some change. Got down to, 23.4. Then I ran my first 800. I think it was determined that, you know, I wasn't going to qualify out of Georgia running 23.2. These guys were running like 21. 22 low. 23.4 wasn't going to cut it. I wasn't going to qualify out in the 400. I was running like 52.5, 52.4, 52.2. I think I made it to like 52.0. And I just think, again, my body was not conditioned to go under 52 at that time. So they said, run the 800, run the 15, you can qualify from there. I ran my first qualifier. I went 2:05 solo. I ran 2:05 by myself. No one was around me. And then in the final, I went like 2:03 and some change, and I ran with my teammate. We killed it. We had to get top 6. You know, in the later part of, you know, I set myself up. I would always split like 56, 57 in the first 400 and then keep it going. And I remember like being in like 7th position, top 6 makes it to nationals. And I remember being in like the last 150, like being in like 7th place and hauling ass to get top 6. And I end up sneaking and running like 2:03. and I made it to nationals. So I ran 203, made it to nationals. Fantastic. I'm at nationals. I'm in Michigan. I'm ready to run. I'm intimidated. I'm looking around, and you know, my coach didn't necessarily talk to me about a race plan, but I definitely left a lot on the table. My times was just dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. You know, after I ran that 203, and I go into my prelim, I look at the previous prelims of my teammates. None of them made it to the final. So I'm just like, yo, like, what do I do? I had no concept of like the magnitude of that particular event, of that particular moment. I run my race. I remember I run my first 400 at like 57 seconds. It felt cool. I continue that rhythm, and on the back stretch, it's just me and another guy. We just keep the rhythm. At the 600, in my head, he just starts to take off, and it's weird. I had no sense of urgency to like take off with him, and I definitely know I had that in the tank. And even like thinking back now, you know, I'm obviously way over 10th grade, but even thinking back now, I'm just like, man, I did not give it my all in that particular race. But for the sake of the story, he continued to run. He went 159. I finished up. He got me by like 3 seconds. I went 202.74, I believe. And I did not make the final. I was projected to, you know, get like what? I was 48th, ranked 40. I think before that race, I was ranked like 70 something in the nation. I ended up being ranked 48th. But in order to even make it to the final, you had to run under 2 minutes. And I feel like if I would have beat him or stayed close enough, I would have got it to the final. But I think I just wasn't mature enough, and I didn't have necessarily the conversations needed that I need to have to be like, go get him, go get him. He's hot. He has your spot. Go get him. You have the belief. I have the belief to go get it, and it just wasn't there. So, like I said, that was my first time running 202. I also ran the 1500 at nationals. I went 430 again. So, you know, I believe that perfect balance and marriage of, you know, the 400, running that 52, and running a 430 enabled me to have the speed and the strength in order to run like a 202. So, you know, definitely a good time, good memories. Like I said, that was my first time running nationals as a high schooler, and like not it being like a team atmosphere in terms of like, oh, you made a relay. And no, I went there, I made it in 2 events, highly competitive, and I somewhat rose to the occasion. To come from a 212 down to a 202 was kind of crazy. You know, I'll even list one of the notable workouts I remember. You know, one of the notable workouts I remember was that I would do. Oh, it was a big workout. It was, matter of fact, it was like probably the last hard workout we had right before we made it. My coach was wilding that day, but we had like 12 to 15. Let me not exaggerate. We had probably like 10 to 12 times 150s with jog back recovery. So these 150s were not timed. They were like basically like punishment because people were not running back. But you know, funny enough, that's like a really good 800-meter workout. The more tired we got, we had to continue going. If I were to think about the times we were running, it was probably like 21, 22 seconds, repeatedly, just keeping that rhythm. And it enabled us to being in, you know, to deal with being in a state of fatigue and still being able to execute at a high level, even when you're tired. And I remember, you know, like I said, running at the nationals and still having a gear left and not using it. And I think I had a 159 in my legs for sure. But you know, it happens. It is what it is. It is what it is. No regrets. So I just wanted to, like I said, give you guys a little insight onto the first time I ran 202 for the first time, and you know, just what it took to get there. And like I said, maybe this will help you, maybe it won't, maybe it's more entertainment, but I think it's, you know, I think it could definitely help some people that's trying to break that barrier of 205, 204, 203. And yeah, I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps someone out there. All right, this is D Brown with Trackheads. Peace.